For anyone plugged into the energy sector, well, the role of things like circuit breakers and fuses is pretty fundamental, right? But the sheer scale, the dynamic growth of their global market, that often flies under the radar. So today, we're doing a deep dive into exactly that. Okay, let's unpack this. Our mission here is to get really granular, looking at the growth path of this essential, maybe overlooked market. We've got revenue figures from 2021, projections for 2025, and forecasts stretching all the way out to 2033. And we're breaking it down by region, by country. You might be surprised by the scale and just how consistent the growth is for such a foundational industry.
Yeah, what's truly fascinating here is how these, well, seemingly mundane components, they're actually critical barometers for global economic shifts. Their market impact, it isn't just about small parts. It directly mirrors these big trends like infrastructure development pace, our ever-increasing global energy hunger, and crucially, those evolving safety standards. So the numbers we're about to dig into, they really tell a story. It's a story of tech advancement, global expansion, all driven by something as basic as managing electricity safely.
That's a perfect way to frame it.
Yeah.
Okay, let's kick off with that global overview for these electrical guardians. So back in 2021, the worldwide sales revenue for circuit breakers and fuses, it was a pretty robust $14,259.2 million. Now, looking ahead, that number's projected to climb. We're talking $17,687.4 million by 2025. And then a really significant jump to $27,214.7 million by 2033.
Right. And when we connect this to the bigger picture, that compound annual growth rate, the CAGR, it comes out to 5.534%. Now, for a market like this, that's actually quite significant. I mean, for an industry as established, as mature as circuit breakers and fuses, a 5.5% CAGR, that's not just routine replacement. It really points to the sustained underlying demand. You've got massive global electrification efforts, modernizing old grids, expanding infrastructure for new populations, new industries. It's constant. It just shows how vital, reliable power still is.
Absolutely. And speaking of expansion, let's shift focus to North America. Big region. In 2021, it contributed, $4,148 million to the global pot. Projections show it hitting $7,601.06 million by 2033. So that maintains a pretty solid CGR of 5.263%.
And within North America, yeah, no surprise, the United States is the heavyweight. It accounted for $3,225.07 million in 2021 and the forecast, growing to $5,875.62 million by 2033. That's a CAGR of 5.226%.
Okay, but here's where it gets really interesting looking at the neighbors. Canada, for instance. Smaller market, sure, $496.93 million in 2021, but it's projected to reach $956.214 million by 2033. And look at this CAGR, 5.581%, slightly higher than the U.S.
Yeah.
And then Mexico, $425.999 million in 2021, forecast to hit $769.228 million by 2033, with a 5.16% CAGR. So it begs the question, right? What might be pushing Canada's growth rate just a little bit higher?
That's a really sharp observation. Now, our data doesn't spell out the exact micro drivers for each country, but we can make some educated guesses based on broader trends. Canada's slightly faster pace. Well, it could stem from significant investment in, say, large-scale resource projects, or maybe a quicker rollout of smart grid tech, perhaps, updating industrial infrastructure compared to maybe some older, less dynamic parts of the U.S. market. It often comes down to where the newest, most intensive electrical build-outs are actually happening.
Right, that makes sense. Different national priorities, different project cycles. Okay, let's cross the Atlantic, Europe. This market saw $2,907.45 million back in 2021. The forecast puts it at $5,214.34 million by 2033. That's a CAGR of 5.115%.
And within Europe, you definitely see a varied picture. Germany, for instance, showing really robust expansion. It's projected to almost double its market size, from $252.657 million in 21 to $480.24 million by 33. That's a strong 5.492% CAGR.
Yep.
France is also a major player, right? Healthy 5.305% CAGR. Growing from $471.297 million to $879.273 million. And Italy, too, performing well, 5.431% CAGR, forecast to reach $521.648 million from $279.025 million. That's a 5.183% CAGR. Then you've got Russia, Spain, Sweden, Denmark, Switzerland, even smaller markets like Luxembourg, all contributing. Their key AGRs seem to mostly hover between, say, just under 5% and maybe 5.4%, 5.5%. And that rest of Europe chunk grouping other nations, that also shows consistent growth. Yeah, and this variety, this regional diversity, it does raise an important question about what's driving it differently in different places. Countries like Germany and France, with those slightly higher AGRs, well, it's likely demand fueled by pretty aggressive industrial modernization, ongoing infrastructure upgrades, maybe those stringent energy efficiency rules pushing for newer components. Whereas, some areas with maybe slightly slower growth might have really established grids already, or perhaps less immediate need for huge new construction projects. So it's more of a consistent replacement cycle rather than accelerated growth.
Okay, that distinction makes sense. From Europe, let's pivot to, well, the really dynamic Asia-Pacific region. This area is a true powerhouse. Started at 2,883.21 million in 2021, projected to hit a massive 5,557.24 million by 2033. And what really jumps out is the CAGR, 5.599%. That's notably higher than both North America and Europe.
Oh, absolutely. The Asia-Pacific region is definitely a major focus for growth right now. China, of course, is the biggest contributor there. It's projected to reach $1,368.19 million by 2033, up from $669.769 million in 21. That's a really impressive 5.975% CAGR.
Wow.
And India also shows significant expansion, 5.791% CAGR, growing from 445.456 million to 884.157 million. Australia, too, actually, not far behind in growth rate, a high CAGR of 5.883%, leaping from $91.109 million up to $182.833 million.
So what does this all mean? This really rapid expansion across Asia-Pacific? Because beyond those top countries, we're seeing strong numbers from Japan,
Right.
South Korea, Singapore, Southeast Asia as a collective bloc, Taiwan, all showing CAGRs over 5.2%. It really paints a picture of intense, widespread development.
Precisely. That rapid expansion in APAC, it's fundamentally driven by, unprecedented urbanization, really aggressive industrialization, and huge government investments in new infrastructure. Think smart city projects, expanded manufacturing. The sheer scale of population growth, economic growth, especially in China and India, it just creates this inherent, almost insatiable demand for these basic electrical parts.
Yeah.
It fuels a continuous cycle of building out and modernizing.
Makes sense. Okay, next up, South America. Also showing pretty impressive performance, actually. The market there was 1,234.86 million in 2021. Forecast to reach 2,362.24 million by 2033. That's a notable 5.61% CAGR, higher than Europe and North America again.
Yes, and in South America, Brazil is clearly the dominant force. It's growing from $486.83 million in 2021 to $967.099 million by 2033. That's a strong 5.805% CAGR. Argentina follows with a 5.478% CAGR. That's from $186.057 million up to $351.737 million. And then you have other key players like Colombia, Peru, Chile, all showing healthy CAGRs, mostly between 5.4% and 5.6%. The consistent growth across the board there, it suggests a really broad push for modernization across the continent.
And what's fueling that, do you think?
Well, likely increasing urbanization again, ongoing infrastructure development to support growing economies, and just the continuous integration of modern electrical systems, residential, commercial, across the board.
Got it. Okay, from South America, let's head over to the Middle East. This market hit 866.958 million in 2021, projected to reach 1,589.34 million by 2033. That gives a 5.136% CAGR.
And in the Middle East, Saudi Arabia is a critical player, growing from $224.109 million in 21 to $402.579 million by 33. That's a 5.132% CAGR. Turkey, though, shows particularly strong growth, 5.578% CAGR. That's from $88.343 million to $170.059 million.
And we also see contributions from Egypt, Qatar, the rest of the Middle East.
Right. A lot of this is tied to, those ambitious national vision plans, these huge smart city projects like NEOM, and a real concerted push for economic diversification away from just oil and gas. All of that demands vast amounts of new and upgraded electrical infrastructure.
Okay, and now, for what might be the most remarkable segment of this deep dive, Africa. This continent actually boasts the highest regional CAGR of all, a really staggering 6.426%. The market size grew from 2,228.71 million in 2021, projected to hit 4,890.48 million by 2033. Okay, let's really unpack this incredible growth.
This is truly the standout story in the data, isn't it? The growth engines within Africa are particularly impressive. Nigeria, for example, shows really robust growth, 6.621% CAGR.
Right.
Moving from $728.12 million in 21 to $1,645.65 million projected for 33.
Wow.
But the real national champion here, it's South Africa. It leads with the highest national CAGR overall, an astonishing 6.745%. Their market is projected to more than double, from $644.989 million in 2021 to $1,486.22 million by 2033. And the collective rest of Africa segment also contributes significantly, showing really strong growth as well.
Those numbers for Africa are just phenomenal. It really highlights a continent undergoing profound transformation.
Absolutely. The implications of Africa leading the growth like this, they're profound, they're multifaceted. It points directly to these huge, large-scale electrification initiatives, right?
Yeah.
Bringing reliable power to places that haven't had it, often using distributed generation microgrids. That's coupled with rapid population growth, which fuels demand for new housing, new commercial buildings. On top of that, you have significant infrastructure projects, transport, mining, manufacturing, all creating this immense need for new, robust electrical protection. It's a market that isn't just expanding, it's undergoing this fundamental shift towards broader, more sophisticated electrification.
So wrapping this up, what does this all mean for you, our listener? Well, we've dug into a market that, yeah, maybe it's often overlooked, but it's projected to nearly double globally between 2021 and 2033. It shows this incredibly consistent, robust growth trend across continents. We saw North America, Europe with steady foundational expansion, and then Asia Pacific, South America, and especially Africa, demonstrating truly explosive growth. Africa with that nearly 6.5% overall CAGR, and countries like South Africa leading the charge. Clearly a massive area of opportunity and development. It showcases this global drive towards more and more electrification.
Yeah, and this deep dive into the numbers, it really raises an important overarching question for all of us, doesn't it? What do these market trends imply for our collective future? As global energy demands keep soaring, as smart grid tech becomes more common, as safety standards evolve, how will these foundational components like circuit breakers and fuses, how will they adapt? How will they innovate? Think about how they'll need to integrate with renewables, manage the complexity of smart homes, smart cities, and just keep ensuring safe, reliable power in a world that's becoming ever more electrified. Their quiet evolution, well, it's going to continue to underpin pretty much everything.